Well, good evening, everyone. I, Utkarsh Gaurav, on behalf of Industry Interaction Cell, welcome you all to the Industry Interaction session on Applied Machine Learning at Cargill. Today, we have Mr. Jeyabalaji Subramanian and Mr. Sri Rama Bhadra Raju. Mr. Jeyabalaji Subramanian is a data platform engineering lead at Cargill data function, and Mr. Sri Rama Bhadra Raju is data analyst in our CASC data and analytics department. So before proceeding ahead, I would request our guests to introduce themselves to the audience. Stage is yours, sir.
Okay, yeah, just a minute. I'm going to switch on the video and then we can get started.
Yeah, sure.
Let me know if everyone is able to see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining in for this session. So, my name is Jeyabalaji. I work with Cargill for the last 4 years, and I have around 20 plus years of experience across the software engineering, product management, and consulting domains. And my main areas of expertise from a functional viewpoint are commodity trading and risk management, and also financial services. I also have Sri Rama Bhadra, who has joined with me for this session. Sri Rama, you can quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. So I'm Sri Ram. I have done my dual degree, which is BTech plus MTech from IIT Madras in mechanical engineering. I am strongly interested in data science. So I have joined Cargill 3 years back, and I've been working there since. I work primarily in data science and analytics. I work closely with Jeyabalaji in delivering various data science proof of concepts and a few of them in production as well. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Okay, so we will in this session today, we will give an introduction to Cargill as a whole very briefly and touch upon the various strategic initiatives which Cargill focuses on, right? And that we will cover in the next 5 to 10 minutes. We will make it very briefly. And then after that, we will get into two specific AI ML solutions that we have developed within Cargill, and explain the problem statement first, what we were trying to solve, and what our approach for the solution is. And also we'll touch upon the specific machine learning strategies that we have used. And we'll open up the floor for some of the questions from you. And then like that, we can basically go to the next one as well. So we have two specific solutions we have picked up for presentation today, right? First of all, I mean, is everyone able to hear me well? I see some chat messages around like unable to hear and all. So if everyone is able to hear well, then I'll proceed further.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So let me share my screen. All right. Hope everyone is able to view this, right? Is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. Yeah. So today's topic is applied machine learning at Cargill. So a very brief about Cargill as an organization, right? So it is an agri-tech company headquartered in Minneapolis, USA. It operates in 70 plus countries and selling commodities across 125 markets. And in terms of the stakeholders, Cargill works with farmers in most of the originating countries where the grains are originated for trading. And also it works with manufacturers, food service customers, and also end consumers as well. So from that perspective, you can say that Cargill as an organization touches across farm to fork in the agriculture as an industry, right? And then a brief about what we specifically do is we work across multiple um, enterprises or business units, right? So the key ones are agricultural supply chain or Cargill agricultural supply chain, what you normally abbreviate as CASC, right? Cargill agricultural supply chain. Fundamentally, it deals with originating and sourcing commodities from farmers in specific countries. And then it is either sent to the crushing plants where it is crushed and processed, or it is also sent to the ports where it is further traded with other counterparties, and then eventually it reaches the destination countries where it is consumed, right? So if you take an example of soybean, Cargill is one of the major sources of soybean as a commodity from Brazil, and bulk of the soybean that is sourced from the farmers in Brazil is crushed in the crush plants, and then we get soybean meal and soybean oil, which is then further sold. And some of the soybean is directly sold in the port as well, which then eventually reaches either Europe or China, where it is processed as well, right? So that is the agricultural supply chain enterprise. And within the food and bio-industrial, or what we call as Cargill Food and Bio, or CFB, ingredients are sold to various brands, and they make the finished goods, right? So if you look at Nestle, for example, um, a lot of the ingredients that is used in the Nestle products are supplied by Cargill, right? And then they further take it and then they process it, and then it's sold. And then Cargill also sells brands directly, and a few interesting brands are being sold directly in India as well, right? Like Gemini oil, if you've kind of either seen it or used it. So that is basically a brand that is directly marketed by Cargill. Um, so that is on the food and bio industrial business unit. And then on the animal nutrition and protein, it's about basically producing the protein products, right? So we work across farmers, manufacturers, retailers, food service customers, and then also sometimes retail consumers as well. So it's like, think of this as like a broad spectrum where it starts with the farm, working with farmers, ensuring that we have a relationship with them to acquire the grain. And then there is also the supply chain where you have the storage, processing, transportation, and then finally selling it to the destination markets as well. So the entire supply chain is involved over here. So it's a huge organization where we have independent units for like trading, and then ocean transport, and also logistics as well, right? So now coming to specifically um, how Cargill looks at growing, right? So it's divided into three major parts, right? So one is growing with customers. So that what we call as commercial excellence capabilities. So there is a lot of focus on customer driven innovation over here, right? So especially with the pharma customers, and the main focus here is to partner with the pharma customers and strengthen the relationship with them, and based on that, ensure that whatever acquisition we need to do in terms of the grains, we are able to source them from the farmers in a reliable fashion, is one of the key focus areas for Cargill under this pillar of growing with customers. Now, on the strengthening our core part of it, the main focus areas are ensuring that we have an intelligent supply chain, right? And we also have ongoing efficiency and simplification is a key focus area under the strengthening our core pillar. So if you look at the supply chain, you would have kind of heard about a lot of disruptions, especially either in the supply part of it or on the demand side of it. Some of this we would have felt even during the COVID times, right, where because of the logistics disruption, there was a huge shock around the supply side as well as the demand side. So from Cargill's perspective, there are specialists who are always on the lookout for what is happening at a macro level in the world, and based on that, they will have to react accordingly and ensure that the commitments are fulfilled. So recently, if you look at it, there has been a surge in the demand from China for soybean, even though it's been increasing this year, especially it's been there has been a surge. So from Brazil, where soybean is sourced, uh, typically there is a 50-50 in terms of crushing the soybean in the plants versus sending them, exporting them to China. But in this year, there has been an upsurge of export of the soybean to China rather than crushing it within the country. So, like this, the supply chain people, experts are on the lookout for opportunities and also optimization initiatives, right? And then finally, there is a lot of focus on the renewable fuels in the new markets and acquisition space. So most of the soybean that most of the corn that is sourced is all kind of channelized into making biodiesel or the renewable fuel rather than being making that as a feed to the China markets. So there has been a gradual shift around like how do we even sell these grains as well, and technology plays definitely a key role in all of this. So just highlighting the three strategic value pillars: one is growing with customers, second is strengthening our core, and last is the targeting new markets and acquisitions. Now, getting into the first pillar, which is growing with customers, as I talked about earlier, the focus here really is on customer-driven innovation. And I'm going to now present a solution that we have developed in the AAML space, which is targeted towards customer-driven innovation. So this is basically about the global supply demand data bot. It's about curating the supply demand insights and from the text data and supplying it to our farmer customers with a view to increase the engagement and also transparency, right? So a quick background on what the problem itself is, right? So USDA is United States Department of Agriculture, and they have a specific report that is published every month called as WASDE report, that is World Agricultural Supply Demand expectations, right? So they publish something like a forecast or expectations of what the supply and demand looks like for various commodities across the world. So they give something like a commentary by country, right? And there are two parts to this report. One is the tabular data, which says, okay, fine, supply side, like what is the total amount of production that is going to be happening with respect to that particular grade of a commodity, like red winter wheat, for example. That is on the supply side of things, right? So what is going to be the total production that is going to come in this particular season. And on the supply side, there are also data around like how much acres the plantation has happened, and then what has been the yield this year, etc. So the supply side data is also provided in the tabular form. On the demand side, if you look at it, typically it will be like how much of the commodity has been exported till date, and what has been the domestic consumption like. Is there a shift in the patterns around the domestic consumptions? Is the data that is provided on the demand side. I thought somebody had a question here. Sorry. Okay, I'll go ahead. So
Questions, questions are there, but we can take in the answer.
Yeah. I'll just kind of finish up the solution and then we'll take questions. And after that, we'll go to the next solution. So TLDR here is that we have data that is coming from the US DA, tabular data that enumerates the supply side details as well as the demand side details as a tabular data. But there is also specifically the analyst commentary data that that is provided every month, right? Which kind of tells you why some of the supply demand metrics have changed, right? So an example here, if you see here, is that in a particular season, the production is actually up by 79 million bushels, and they also tell you why that has happened, right? So that is the text that that you do not see on the tabular data. So if you see here the supply data, it talks about the area planted, area harvested, and then the previous year stocks also is mentioned over here, and then what is the total production. Then it talks about how much of this is basically going to be exported versus domestically consumed, and what is the total ending stock. So this information, while relevant, it kind of does not tell you why certain things have changed with respect to the previous season or the previous month. And that commentary is provided as a text over here, right? And then getting that data out manually and doing that by country is basically a problem that a lot of organizations were trying to solve in this particular space. And that is where, if you see here, we have created a natural language processing based solution called as Global Supply Demand Data Bot, which basically does three things, right? It first performs what is called as a numeric benchmarking, which is basically taking this particular data that you see on the tabular data and specifically create measures around what has been the max, what has been the min, what has been the median, statistically benchmark the data that is there relevant for a particular commodity and also a country. And secondly, we use NLP to perform both sentiment analysis as well as summarization of the data, right? So if you look at, for example, wheat in a particular month, kind of providing this entire paragraph of data to the farmer is not very useful because, I mean, they'll probably not read it, right? So what we have done with the solution is to use NLP to specifically identify the key important elements and then extract those sentences accordingly and then provide those as insights to the farmers in a mobile app form, for example, right? So if you look at this, right, it talks about the limited availability of Brazilian soybeans, and this kind of reduces the export competition for US new crop soybeans. And what does it mean? Here we are talking about basically a supply side shock, right? So the supply of soybean from Brazil is going to reduce. And that means that there is an opportunity for the farmers in the US to capitalize on that and then increase the price accordingly. So this is the kind of summarization we do from the big text over here, right? Yeah, I'm going to take a pause here. Any questions? Yeah, we can get started.
Basically, we do not have particular specific type of question right now.
Okay.
So we can get ahead.
We can go ahead. Okay, sure, no problem.
Meanwhile, sir, I had a question. Like, since the data is both including the time series based on time and based on cross sectional, so how thus there is any importance of the panel. Nowadays, panel data analysis is also in uh, discussion. So how does the company and how can we integrate the machine learning with the panel data? If you can throw, or maybe we can discuss in the end of the session.
Yeah. We'll discuss in the end. I've understood what you're asking. I'll cover that. So essentially, if you see here, what happens is this whole data set is available as a PDF that is uploaded on a specific day and a specific time, right? It's available to everybody. And what happens is every company, including some of these commodity trading or even data analyst companies, they kind of download it and start processing it. We also have a data pipeline, and then using that pipeline, we basically call you use APIs and then the bots to get the PDF data, and think of this as like an unorganized or more like an unstructured data that is stored in the data lake. And from there, there is a next step in the process is basically a bot which kind of extracts the specific text out and organizes it. And then there is a process that runs after that, which kind of performs the numerical benchmarking to find out what has actually happened on the supply and demand side, right? Which actually acts as an input for the natural language processing. So we first start with the numerical analysis, and we look at, okay, fine, within a particular country and a commodity, we take a particular metric, right? Production is one of the sub metrics within the supply side, and we look at the trend, right? This trend of the, as you rightly said, the time series data provides you with the trend. So numerical data, kind of using the numerical data, we first find out what is the trend like. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? Now, if it is decreasing, so in this case, for example, the wheat production in the USA is going downwards, which you can see on the map as well, right? On the graph also, it's like there is a sharp decline. Now, with this information, this specific context of the production going down is what is used to frame a question or a context for the question and answer model. And then once you pass that relevant question around the sentence, it is able to find an answer for that particular decline as well, right? So if you look at this, like, of course, yeah, there has been a reduction in the planted area, and also the yields are not very promising with respect to wheat, and that is why the whole production, there is a downward trend. So instead of directly attacking the text and trying to crunch the texts, right, we first find out from the numerical data what actually is happening with respect to specific metrics in the supply demand, and that information is used in turn to frame the right set of questions and get the answers from the NLP models, right? So I think one of your questions was around like how do we use the data, the tabular data along with the NLP data. So this is how we do. We first look at crunch the numerical data to find out the patterns, and then frame the questions, and then use the NLP Q&A models to find out the actual reason, and that is attached along with the specific graphs as well. So when somebody looks at the trade flow or even the supply demand charts for a particular month, they will also get the corresponding commentaries summarized for them, so that they can easily be able to correlate why something is happening with respect to supply or demand situation. Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, so not only does this bot summarizes the data published by the government, but it also interprets the data to find out the reason. Am I right?
Yeah. So the reason is the key here, Sai, right? So if, instead of somebody going through the PDF reports to find out what the analysts are providing as a commentary, this bot kind of reduces the time by automatically providing that insights, right? So the actual process, the way it happens is these analysts go into a room which is like highly secured, and then nobody can find out what they are going to give as a commentary, right? And then the commentary is published at the same time and made available to all the market participants, right? Because if you look at things like supply data, and then if somebody knows upfront that supply is going to be down, they will basically make the financial contracts on the derivative side of things to capitalize on that. They will basically do a lot of arbitrage trades to kind of take advantage of the opportunity and all of that, right? That is why the whole commentary part of it is like a very, very secure thing, and it's published at a particular time to all the market participants, and then accurately finding out what is changing in a short period of time is where we provide the value here, Sai.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay. So moving on. Yeah. I mean, I think I talked about it. So along with the numerical data, there is also an additional commentary around why something has happened, which is the key. And then the second part of it is basically the summarization part of it, right? So what we do is we have the farmers' data in our databases. And I mean, of course, yeah, we know, for example, some specific farmers, what they actually trade on, and like who's like, we also do some bit of customer segmentation and then find out which customers are our market customers and all of that. So what we do is based on the type of customer or the customer segmentation, we also provide them with something like a summarized nuggets of information to them, right? So this is basically not a question and answer model. This is basically a summarization, text summarization NLP model, where instead of just sending out that entire send the paragraph of data with respect to wheat, which is not interesting for somebody and there's no value add there, we look at, again, using the numerical insights, we look at specific areas where their sentiment score is very high, right? Like things like, for example, tokens like severe drought or lowest since. This is basically is what we have kind of collected as a set of tokens for training the model. And then when you actually pass on a particular PDF report, which the model has not seen at all, it's able to use these tokens to basically latch on to the specific sentimental sentiments, and then it kind of arrives at a sentiment score. And then any sentence that has kind of scored high on the sentiment, either positive or negative, is extracted out. And then that is kind of, that becomes the summary for the farmers, which they can see in the app, right? So this is the second part of the solution, which is the text summarization part of it, right? Yeah, so that is the summary of what we have done on the natural language processing space. Sri Rama, do you want to add anything to this?
Not on this one. Yeah. It's good.
Okay. Any other questions, folks, here as to like what we have done on this space, natural language processing space?
We have a question that Saranya asks is that did your team made a custom LLM NLP model or did you use pre-trained model?
We have done fine tuning on top of Hugging Face models. So I think the latest LLMs are much more powerful. But when we have started, this was I think around in March 2022 around. So at that time we don't have these powerful chat GPTs, etc. But we have done fine tuning on top of available models from Hugging Face actually.
Right. Thank you. I think that should answer the question. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, what we have done is the applied ML, right? Because fundamentally, if you look at Cargill as an organization, the value that we derive should be very, very close to what the business does. So we normally do not venture into like building anything from scratch unless there is a business case that warrants it, right? So in this case, we felt that open source like Hugging Face models are good enough for us to like provide value, and then I think it was also a right decision to do from a investment perspective as well. Yeah. So moving on to the next pillar here, strengthening our core. So this is the focus here is all about the making the supply chain more intelligent, and by that what we mean is that the typically there is a focus provided on can we optimize the resources that are deployed in a particular place, right? Or can we avoid the cost, for example? So the strengthening the core is a very key initiative, and it kind of cuts across the multiple facets of supply chain, right? Like, for example, if there is logistics where we have booked something like either a container transport or a bulk vessel transport, and there are a lot of activities done on the port where it is going to land and then unload the grain. So a lot of optimization is carried out at that point in time. And then with respect to something like, for example, palm or tropical palm, there also, on account of a variety of reasons, there are a lot of optimization opportunities. So fundamentally, this is all about, okay, fine. From the bottom line perspective, what can we do, right? And can we also enhance the customer experience is also a dimension here. But fundamentally, this is all about how do we ensure that we actually strengthen the bottom line in ways where we reduce the costs. Now, with respect to that, there is we are going to take up the next use case here, which is the tropical palm yield forecasting use case. Which kind of the overview here is that the goal is to accurately forecast the tropical palm yield over the next 12 months, with a view to improve the supply chain planning, right? So I invite Srirama to talk a little bit about the problem statement and the challenges over here. Over to you,
Yeah,
Srirama.
sure. So I'm not sure actually how many of you know how extensively palm oil is used in our day-to-day useful products, right? Like if you go to a supermarket, I think around 60 to 70% of the products contain palm oil, like the deodorants or chocolates or etc. So, and one interesting fact is 84% of this palm oil production in the world, right, that comes from just two countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, and there is heavy reliance on them, uh, primarily because it's a tropical climate and the soil there is well suited for such crops, right? So Cargill is very much interested in sustainability, like sourcing sustainable products, and and the demand for palm oil is keep on rising. So given the land we have, we can't, like, one option is to increase the land. You plant more palm productions and you will get more palm production out of it. But problem is you will run out of land soon. So we have to resort to more sustainable policies, like maybe you have to increase the yield per hectare of a given land. That way you will end up with more production, right, from the same land. So we Cargill is more focused on such kind of initiatives. So this solution is part of it. Uh, so uh, so just to give an idea for regarding palm is a plant like it's a perennial crop, right? That grows fruits all year around, and I think the peak starts around in August, and you will get till November the peak ends. So it through, like, once a tree grows, right, it keeps on giving fruits throughout its life. I think around 25 years it stops giving yield, or it's better to put it this way: the trees grow too tall that you can't collect yield effectively out of them, and the yield produce will also decline. So given there's a case, right, like in case of annual crops, where you will, like corn, you will grow and they have their own cycle, and at the year end you will just cut them down. But in case of palm, once you plant them, the next 20 years it's fixed, like that block is going to belong to palm, right? Now in the year, since we have some lean months, like some during these months you won't have much, not much, like not significant production, and there will be some peak months. So it's essential that you have to know when these peak months are coming. The general trend, as I said, is from August to November, but it can happen a bit earlier or later, right? So you need to be better prepared to, like, to give an like context, Cargill has around 80,000 hectares of land in Indonesia region. It's like our own land plus with small farmers of Indonesia that we are contracted with. So you can imagine, right, the scale of such a big land, and you have to manage that. So land labor planning is very essential. So every month you will get yield. So workers will need to go around blocks. Block is like you can imagine 100 hectare of land. So every month farm workers needs to go around blocks, and then they have a long stick with a sickle attached, and they need to cut down the fruits from the plant, from the farm, and go around it. So the yield you get is essentially you need to plan your manpower very efficiently, so that whenever there is a peak, right, you don't end up with less labor to collect the yield, because if you don't collect the yield, they will get rotten soon. Right now, why? So hence we took this initiative of predicting palm yield, right? Like given this significant acreage that we have sufficient historical data, structured historical data, and we want to analyze. Can we predict the yield at all? Like for the next 12 months, how much yield are we gonna get? Now, what does this solve, right? One is that obviously the thing we are discussing, we will get better manpower estimate basis the, like, if the next 2 months are going to be lean months, we need not bother too much about it. But if the model is saying that, okay, you might need better planning for manpower, then the business can take appropriate decision. And how is the yield trend looking for future months, right? Like if the yield trend is not looking that good, if the model is suggesting that okay, you might not get better yield, then you should make appropriate contracts, like in fulfilling your contracts, right, obligations. And the main interesting thing is what are the contributing factors towards yield increase and decrease. This is a very hard problem actually, but uh, suppose you have a sufficiently accurate model. This is very important, that accuracy of the model is like you are able to predict something with sufficient accuracy, means your inputs are good enough to determine your y out of from x, right? So once you have a sufficiently accurate model, then business can use what inputs can we tweak better to get better yield, right? Better YPH. What are the factors that are determining currently that we can tweak a bit better to get better YPH in the same land? Yeah. Can we move to the next slide?
Yep, sure. Let's just go to the next one. So,
Right.
in terms of the factors that impact the yield, so there are two types of constraints that we're talking about here, right? One is more of like a constraint on the input side of things, where we talked about the age of the palm tree itself, which is like something that you cannot even control. But apart from that, the pests and diseases, the amount of fertilizer that is basically provided to the particular palm plant, and also the rainfall that is received in that particular season in that location. And also, I mean, just the rainfall alone is not important. How well it is kind of distributed within that particular block of the land. So all of that contribute to the overall yield, more like input side of constraints here. And on the output side of constraints, see, fundamentally, one of the challenges with palm is that even though you may have a very good production of the palm fruits, how much oil you can extract out of that is a very, very key factor, right? So that is something that it's more of like a material sciences sort of a problem which organizations are trying to solve for. As in, like how do we get more and more oil out of a palm is a problem in itself. But otherwise, the taking the whole palm out for the transportation, and then planning and ensuring that the crush plants are all available ready to crush. So that is the more of like an operational side constraints, right? In terms of like how do we get the maximum amount of what is grown. So if you look at the whole problem of this tropical palm, it has actually not been fully solved by anybody in the world. And the way we wanted to attack this problem was actually twofold. One is purely as a structured data analysis sort of a problem, right? So look at the past history of data, and then look at specific parameters that are contributing to the yield. Is one of the problems that we basically kind of took purely from the structured data perspective, right? So if you look at it, we kind of relied upon the data sets that are already available, and then the reports that are provided by the field agent. So we did a lot of data collection activity, which was actually very painful, but was important for us to even try to understand what is actually happening with respect to the yield. And the second activity that we did was basically see this as a computer vision problem, right? Where you kind of take this as a drone or something to kind of uh, go around the palm tree in itself, and then take the images or videos, and then put that into basically the machine learning based solution, and fundamentally something like a segment detection sort of a thing, right? Where it goes and then detects the areas where the fruits are available. And then in the palm, there is a terminology called as black bunch count. That is basically the number of fruits, number of palm fruits which are black, kind of tells you how much of this is actually like ripened sort of fruits which are ready for like crushing or whatever. And this is basically a problem where we try to accurately count the number of fruits, or what we call as black bunch count, um, through drones and all of that. Like basically take the videos and then put it into some data lake, then use the machine learning like segmentation, object detection sort of a solution to find out the total count of fruits as well, right? So this was a very like a challenging sort of a thing. So maybe Srirama, you can just kind of maybe touch upon a couple of challenges that we solved around the ML part of it over here.
Sure. Yeah, a bit of context to what Jay has already said. So currently companies, right, how we have the yield prediction solution, but how do companies in this space generally do? See you have 1,000 blocks, right? Block is around 100 hectares. A group of people go around sample blocks and they count how many fruits does it currently have. These black bunches that you can see in the video, they count and they have an estimate. A black bunch ripens in 4 months, so that you get the yield in 4 months. So what they do is they make a count of how many black bunches are there, how many red bunches that are ripe are present, and they distribute it kind of around as a forecast for the next 4 months. But this was not a very accurate way, right, of estimating. This is like a short-term forecast, but this is the method that is generally followed. Now, uh, now we try to tackle this yield prediction problem as a long-term solution and short-term solution, short-term forecast and long-term forecast. So this was like, how can we strengthen that manual process that people are doing, which is like surveying the on-ground blocks for that, right? So the challenge that we had faced with this particular problem is that in the video you can see that there is a lot of gap between trees, but on the ground the canopy is so thick that you can't see anything with the drone going above the canopy. Like the view is blocked completely by the leaves. And another thing is that like if one row is accessible by walk, another row is not accessible. So they kind of, whatever leaves are pruned, they will be placed in one of the rows and one row will be left for walking. So you kind of have the drone does not have complete access to capture a 360-degree video or go row by row sequentially and capturing one half of the bunches. So which was the idea that we had. Those are like operational challenges, and yeah.
Yeah, so fundamentally this was done as a proof of concept. So typically in data science initiatives, right, or advanced analytics initiatives, the first step that we do is the proof of concept to ensure that there is actually a business case that is available for us to invest in technology like this, right? So we got some initial funding to run these as experiments and then find out whether it's actually valuable to invest more, and like will that yield good results from a profitability or a business perspective. So this was more of like a proof of concept done, and as of now we have shelved it, right? But maybe with the advent of like maybe LLMs or like maybe with a few advancements around, even maybe the drone technologies, we could probably revisit this. And this is like a very, very interesting problem, which I don't think is kind of already solved or whatever, right? This is like an upcoming problem which has a lot of opportunities to employ applied machine learning techniques over here. So fundamentally, to summarize this, yeah, so the key factors were, one is the age of the palm tree itself, where yeah, it kind of, the yield kind of increases while it is young, and there is something like a prime year sort of a thing. And then after like 90 to 20 years, there is going to be a decline. This is a key indicator of like what are we even expecting as a yield in a particular block of land, right? That is one. And then within the month's perspective, there is also very specific stages over here where there is an intimate amount of knowledge required on the how the whole the fruit process itself happens, and then when the harvest can be done, or all of that, right? So fundamentally, we looked at, okay, fine, the past yield does provide some insights around what is going to be produced. From that perspective, yeah, you just treat it as a time series problem, and then is it solving something? Yes, it was, right? So that is like a low hanging fruit in that sense, right? Like, yeah, treat it as a time series problem. Are we getting something? Yes, there was a good amount of results there, and rainfall was a major contributor, and this was not surprising, right? We just validated a hypothesis, that's it. So everyone knew that, okay, rainfall is going to be a major contributor. We just validated that. And also other things, age definitely a factor, and then soil type, and a bunch of things. So overall, I think, yeah, this is basically a problem which we'll kind of again repick in the near future to kind of attack it, and then maybe get a better solution out of this. Yeah, I'm just pausing here. Any questions around what we have done on this?
We have a question from the audience. Is it possible to use some chemical sensor instead of drone images, like for monitor the plant biochemical behavior for the analysis?
Yeah,
Uh,
Srirama, can you?
yeah, sure. So I think that's an interesting question. We are also exploring a usage of sensors to get more accurate results of soil moisture, etc. But problem is, given the scale of this land, right, 80,000 hectares, or even one block is 100 hectares. Like, how many sensors are you gonna plant, right? And it varies. The soil condition varies greatly if you move from one region to another. So with that requires huge investment into it, and we didn't go further into that. But we have developed a forecast model basis the past information, right? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Okay. Regarding one question is there also, like let's say we have this model predicted. So how, since these models are based on the data collected, but we know that there might be a lot of bias or error. So how you guys deal with this, and how do you ensure that the model is quite accurate to uh, the original productivity?
I think in this case, we did not go that far, right? I mean, typically what we do is that whenever we build a model, we put it on a shadow mode, right? Which means we whatever the users are doing, we don't disturb them at all, right? We just provide this more like a companion or like a co-pilot sort of a thing, where in shadow it will basically do this and say, fine, okay, this is what I think is going to be the yield predicted, and is it kind of aligning with your subject matter expertise, or that's how we start off. So the shadow sort of a mode of deployment ensures that the actual business itself is not impacted, A, and B, the business users get confidence on what the model is basically producing. And then once we cross the stage, let's say there is a confidence, then we go about kind of incorporating some sort of like a feedback mechanism. And again, in these cases, I mean, practically speaking, whatever machine learning models that we have built, right? Um, contrary to what you see in the textbooks or even the blogs or whatever, there is no need for like an immediate feedback and all of that, right? So because this is not like an e-commerce portal where you are trying to kind of do an A/B testing over a period of like a 30 minutes or whatever. So there is time available to look at the feedback and then adjust the model. So the whole ML ops, for example, while we do have an ML ops solution at Cargill, it's not required for every model, right? So it's more of, you need to kind of look at, okay, fine, what is the actual business value here, and based on that we decide, okay, how much level of ML ops we do, or should we even deploy this as like a model, is also something that we determine here, right? So but otherwise it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, in terms of trying to find out whether the model itself is working fine or not is a challenge in itself. Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Sriram.
Also to add Jay's statement and regarding your question that how will you separate out the noise in the data? Actually, that is one of the major challenges we have been dealing with. Like I think Jay has shown you the slide regarding yield taking and yield making, right? What you have from your data lake is just a mixture of like the combined effect. You won't have specifically, like suppose say 5 years of data you have, there will be no log of why like you have 20 tons of from each for each month for some months, and there is sudden drop. There is no audit log that you can find out in general, right? This is years and years of history, and maybe it's a yield taking issue, like someone has blocked access to your field and you are not able to collect the yield, but that doesn't mean that there is no fruit. So it's actually very difficult to track which is yield making and yield taking, and there will always be noise in your model. So our models are like, I think at a state level they're decent. I think if you take the metric as MAPE, I think it's around 72 to 73% accurate. And the business, they have the short-term forecast, right, which we have already shown you regarding that black bunch counting census they do. Along with that, they keep this in picture and they make the long-term forecast, keep their view of long-term forecast and also make a decision. So yeah, hope that helps.
Right. So based on, since this data has been collected like and slowly gathered around, so my question comes following to that, that can this model be used for doing the insurance for the crops? Like for, since the insurance is offered on the crops nowadays, and if some yield is not up to date, so is the accuracy is up to the mark, or like can it be used for choosing a right plan pathway, that whether the choosing insurance for the farmers? So that's my question is.
Got it. Got it. So as I think Jaya previously pointed out, this is currently being used along with the short-term forecast, but accuracy, like we said, this was deployed, I think 5-6 months back. So they, the business, right, before they need to believe it, like they need to see the results for some time, somewhat long term, like maybe 12-24 months before they give, okay, they believe that, okay, this model can be trusted and they can be used. So that confidence phase is still going on. So I can't exactly tell you that it's too accurate and the business are already like making their bets basis it, because however accurate like these models are, they like need to keep continuously improving them over time, right?
Yep.
Right. Right.
So
Understood.
one difference here, like from an organization perspective, Utkarsh showed, the feedback loop will be slightly longer, uh, right? Because fundamentally, if you look at it, we come from the technology angle, solving a business problem, but the business users will naturally have um, some friction around how they adopt some of these solutions also, right? So like talking to the previous solution that we showcased, which is an NLP based one, we had to actually do a lot of discussions and then a lot of relationship building to even say that, okay, this is a problem that is even worth solving for, was a relationship manager sort of a problem, not an NLP problem, right? I had to kind of go and talk with a lot of stakeholders to say that, fine, this is how the customer relationship is going to improve. And then we started kind of getting the funding and then started building and all of that. So in a similar fashion, a lot of what we see on paper or in the blogs where, yeah, you get the data, you build and then you release and then all is fine, does not happen in reality. And that is why some of what we do is like we kind of basically stretch ourselves thin over like multiple set of problems. So whichever works, then we can kind of put more effort into it, or we kind of put that in the parking lot to ensure that there is a lot of visibility and adoption while we work on some other problems. Right? So that's how we typically work in the industry setting.
Right, right. Thank you, sir, for the answer.
So I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is something out of the flow of the discussion. So since you guys are the practitioner of data science, so since I'm learning all of this, the polynomial feature, this function. So what I want to ask, how much in a real life a data scientist avoid using such kind of things? Like in a polynomial feature, it just make a multiplication copy of maybe a 2 or 3 feature, which does not make sense in a real life. So as a data science practice that you use every day in this company, so do you avoid using these kind of things, or do you use this? So how do you use this if you use?
So just to understand that, I have understood the question. You talked about like when you say polynomial, you're talking about like multiple input parameters.
Yeah, multiple input parameter. That too, if I take 3 parameter, maybe the soil moisture and the temperature and something else. So if I use polynomial feature, it will give me something, maybe the multiplication of temperature and soil moisture, and these kind of it will create multiple more features.
Correct.
So
Correct. Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
avoid using these kind of things, or do you use this? And if you use this, can you tell me like how do you use it?
Like to add to his question, I would like a non-linear features or the
Correct.
relationship.
Correct. Correct. Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Basically, feature engineering, maybe like creating features out of the features that are there. And then how do we use non-linear features? It's a very interesting question. So, I mean, that depends on, I would say, the SME who's the data scientist who's like working on this problem, right? That is why, like, for example, if you look at the profiles, like the profile for me, like if you take me as an example, I am not a data scientist. So and I am also not a domain expert. I am basically, think of me as, in this case, more of like a business analyst, right? So I have an understanding of the domain, and I also know how broadly something can be solved for, and I use my relations to ensure that we are solving the right set of problems, and then I will basically kind of hand over that to somebody like Rama, who's the data scientist, and kind of we rely on that particular person to tell the right things for us. Right now, if you ask, do we have something like a community of practice for data science? What should we do? What we should not do? I don't think we have that as of now, right? Because from what I've understood, there is no one shop solution for a problem, right? I think it depends on uh, the person who looks at the problem. But I have seen a lot of this feature engineering and the non-linear feature engineering happening within Cargill. Maybe Srirama, you can provide additional
Agreed.
insights here.
Yeah, actually, during our features, right? We don't just include all the bunch of features at one shot and we expect the model to do, right? So gradually we move from ARIMA models to XGBoost to TFT time series based models. Now in this process, you will have a lot of iterations. Like we have tried these complex non-linear features, right? Which makes sense. Say, fertilizer you are applying in a certain month, and rainfall beyond a threshold. Say there is like if you have categorized rainfall as there are 2 factors that need to occur simultaneously for your yield to be better. Say fertilizer and less rainfall when you apply them, because it will get washed away, right? And probably more rainfall in the like moderate rainfall in the next 6 months. So you can create some compound features based it, which we experimented as well, but rarely works. Like it didn't work. Like they never come up in importance as well. Like the individual features, XGBoost is good enough to do the exact the criteria, right? Like maybe if the rainfall is so and so, then if the fertilizer is so and so, then it will come up with the answer. So since this random forest or these XGBoost trees, decision trees already take care of that complex part, we rarely saw any usefulness of that complex features actually in the modeling.
So just to summarize this, like you don't use it
Right.
usually.
We didn't find any value even though we tried.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
There was one more question. We can take that before going to after that we can go to the next section. And somebody raised their hand or something like that. Yeah. Okay, I mean, if there are no questions, I'll move to the next section here, right?
Yes, sir. I have raised my hand.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sir, yeah, I have a question about the sir just told us that it is hard for the drones to cover all of the crops or of the fruits because of the leaves and everything block its view. So can the machine learning be applied so that the drone's path means it can be defined according to the plant. So if a drone, so are there some limitations to that, or can it be done so that first a drone captures the whole view of the field and then it defines through machine learning? Then how can a drone can go lower or higher according to the plant size and then capture different fruits, or define develop or decide a new path that is more efficient as compared to the regular path?
Yeah, got it. Yeah, go ahead, Srirama.
This is a very interesting question. Actually, when we saw this issue over there, right, when we went to the on-field, we thought of exactly the same thing. Like maybe if the drone has a computer vision module, maybe it can adjust its height a bit more to if the tree is tall, maybe it goes a bit up, like plans its path automatically across the leaves, not hitting them. But that level of advancement in drones is currently not there. We have already used very high-end drones, but that level is still not there actually. That works for any type of object is not there.
Yeah, technologically it is definitely possible, but one thing that we need to realize is that just because it's technically possible, we will not get to solve. That is one hard truth which we need to accept, right? It may be technically possible, but do we have the funds available, and then can we convince people that yes, this is useful? So all of those aspects also come into play when we talk about especially analytical solutions, for sure. So I think in this case we had some funds to use when we used them to uncover certain insights, and then it stopped there. But I think this is not the end of this problem, right? We will definitely be revisiting this. Yeah, so with that, I'm just going to the last section, which is more of like some culmination of what are the key skill sets that are required to succeed in this particular profession, and particularly at Cargill. So essentially, I mean, yeah, I think this is probably not very surprising for all of you folks, right? One is there is a lot of curiosity and critical thinking required, and I see that there are a lot of interesting questions that have come up, right? So that is what is required, right? Just ability to see the problem itself in multiple angles and come up with hypothesis to share, saying can we do this to solve. That is all essential to succeed here, right? And then also one thing that is hard for people to understand is the technology part is really interesting, but how is it aligning with the key business problem that we are solving, and also how aligned is this with the organization strategy is a key thing, right? So which means you need to be plugged into what is happening within the org overall. You also need to get plugged into the industry side of things. Like if I am trying to pitch a problem to somebody who's running the agricultural business in CASC in Brazil, before submitting a problem statement and a solution, I need to be aware of what is the macroeconomic condition within Brazil, and then is this the right time to pitch the solution? So there is also more than just fine. Can I use XGBoost, for example? Right? You need to have that broader level understanding of what problems can we solve, what is the business doing, how is it going to bring value. Little bit of that will be definitely be helpful as well. And then the constant upgradation of technical skills is something that definitely I think it's essential and all of us are aware, and then that is required. And in terms of what you will be doing on a day-to-day basis, um, some of these activities, as I said, it's basically a team effort, right? So there will be a cross-functional team where there will be a data scientist, there will be something like a solutions architect or a business analyst role will be there, and there'll be a role which will be purely like a product manager sort of a role, right? And then there will also be a subject matter expert who actually kind of knows the domain like in depth, like tropical palm. There'll be somebody who has worked on tropical palm for 20 years, and they will know what works, what doesn't work. So major part of your responsibility will be in terms of trying to understand fundamentally what are we solving for, and from that perspective that you'll be doing a lot of exploration activity, POC activity, data visualization activity to find out, okay, fine, are there insights, are there patterns, do we have a hypothesis here? So that is where most of the time is spent, right? And then the next set of activities is all around, fine, okay, now if we find some gold, then we kind of perform something like a culmination sort of an activity, right, where we kind of build some models real quick, interpret the models, and showcase it in a way where we confirm that there is value in doing this. Then the last part is where you do the regular stuff, right? Like do we do XGBoost, or do we have LLM, or all that can come into play. And there are also like platforms available within Cargill to deploy your models to production and all of that. So in that sense, you don't need to struggle to deploy. It's like a single click, and then you'll be able to kind of see the model in production or some other environment as well. And then you can start looking at what it is actually producing. So, but the thing is, like as I mentioned earlier, also in the call, you will not be working on just the model building all the time, which I don't think you will do it anywhere in the world also, right? You will spend a lot of time in understanding the business problem and helping the cross-functional team to uncover the right set of insights so that we can just go pitch and then solve for and then come back and then build. That will be the kind of skills required, and then you will have an opportunity to work across the stack, right? So data analysis to data science to basically even standing up and then rolling out models and stuff like that will be there. But the whole infrastructure part of it typically will be insulated from the data scientists and data analysts, right? Because there'll be a separate team, more like a platform engineering team, who will kind of ensure that they have the right set of products for you to build and roll out, so that you focus on what you bring the most value to the table, which is like data analysis skills and data science skills over here. Yeah, Srirama, you can add to what I said here as well.
Agree. I think you covered everything.
Yeah. So I think that's all from our side here. So any additional questions or anything that you want us to answer here right away?
Also, any questions on what your expectations are on regarding how you will be doing in the job? Like what are your thoughts? You can let us know. Yeah.
Please raise your hand if someone from the audience have question regarding uh, the responsibilities as a data science one the candidate is expected to do in for field of ML. We have two participants. Yes, please go ahead, Saranya and Anmol. So line by line. First Saranya, then Anmol.
Yeah, so my question is that as a data scientists in your company. Do you expect them to do both, take on both data analyst role and ML engineering role, or do you expect them to focus in only one area for one particular project?
No, we expect both to be performed, right? So I understand what you're coming at. So this whole, I mean, we don't typically have a role like ML engineer, for example, right? It will be a data analyst only. The title will be data analyst, but then you will actually do much more than just the data analyst sort of a role. You will be doing the ML engineer role and as well within the single this thing. Yeah. So we don't have a very specific specialized roles like that, Sharanya.
That's all. Thank you, sir.
Then we have Anmol.
Anmol, yeah.
Good evening, sir. This is Anmol. First of all, I would like to thank both of you, sir, for giving your precious time. Now, I would like to ask that as you mentioned about your data analysis field and data science field, these are basically new generated fields that are upcoming. Previously, as we know that there are fields like software engineering and all, and this new field as this is emerging new university in India also take up giving these knowledge like IIT and also new some private institutions also giving the knowledge on these fields. So what you think that is there that much scope of that field in future also, or that's like a slope like that we get in software field like that boom up and now it's declining at a phase. Now people are looking for ML expert and data science expert and all. And my second question is that as you are an experienced person of I have seen your profile like you 2 decades of experience in that field. So now you are able to take up that responsibilities at that level. Now as a fresher, how I get that much level of knowledge so I can even apply at these companies and all, because you know that data scientist a field that no company will give you as a fresher.
No,
Yeah.
I think Anmol, so first question, are there opportunities? I mean, the opportunities are only going to increase, right? With whatever LLMs or whatever that come into the fore. You cannot take the human out of the equation, at least as of now, or maybe in the near future. So I think I would say that the opportunities are going to only increase, but don't compartmentalize yourself already, right? Fine, I want to do only ML engineering may be counterproductive sometimes, right? You may have to, I mean, at least with respect to Cargill, I don't know about other organizations. When you are looking at Cargill as an organization to work for, I would say just think slightly broadly, and that will help in your interviews and all that, right? Don't say, I'm going to do data ML engineering and data analyst. I don't want to do. I think that is not what we are looking for. That is one. And number two, contribution. I think, see, at all levels, there will be contributions required, Anmol. So from that perspective, I think even as a fresher, you will be providing some fresh perspectives around what can be done, right? Because it's not definitely a single person job. So while I may have skills required to talk to the business to kind of pitch or maybe make things happen, I may have to rely on people like you to get the required data for me to interpret it and then talk to the business. So I would say fundamentally everyone is important in the organization, right? Yeah.
And on the entry level roles, we do have, right? We do conduct drives and we have our website. Can look for roles we are advertising, but there are entry level roles. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Yeah, I think we can take one more question and then we'll conclude. Yeah, go ahead.
We have
Two more.
Mudit.
Okay, two more and then we'll stop. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sir, this actually a question slightly different from the topic, but as previous to me say, was talking about topic about the business opportunities and in data science and all. So as you the first topic of the lecture, as you told, the bot was there to analyze the bot was created to analyze the data from the US and then show produce and also summarize it and then show it as a produce a final product. So before it was the bot, there will should be people who used to do all that work, and now there should be data scientists. So I had a curiosity. So is the jobs in that field is decreased or increased? Because the people who used to first do the work of collecting the data and then organizing it should be done by the bot. But now the people, there are also the requirement of people to handle the bot and also to maintain it to and also about its work, about programming it to do the work. So the jobs in that field is increased or decreased?
Okay, I think I need to paraphrase your question to ensure that I've understood you. So you're asking the people who were manually analyzing, are they still in the job? Is that your question? Or the people who built the bot, are they still relevant?
I
No,
think
my
the
question
first
was
part.
yes. My question was that the people have first the people who used to do the job of collecting the data and then
Manually
representation of
analyzing.
final
Okay.
product, and now
Yeah.
they are replaced by the people who are more data analysts, data science to control the bot. So means the people are decreased in the field or increased?
No, I think nobody has been replaced because if you look at the people who are relying on this particular the reports, right, the PDF reports, they are industry experts, and we also have roles which are very specific to the commodity itself, right? You have like corn commodity experts versus soybean commodity experts. So their job will not go anywhere, right? Because they have the domain knowledge which you cannot replace with any bot. So what the bot actually solves for is basically their time can be utilized in a better way, because what used to take like 45 minutes for somebody to just go through it and then compare with the tabular data to arrive at something, like within minutes of the PDF landing are published by the USDA, the insights are already ready for them in the table or somewhere in the dashboard or whatever, and then they will be able to better spend their time in some other meaningful activity. That is the value at here, right? Not the intent is not to replace them or anything like that. I mean, hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think one more and we'll stop after that.
I think that was the last.
Last
Maybe.
one. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Okay.
So
So
thanks a lot for providing this opportunity. Yeah, it was nice talking to this group, and then a lot of very interesting and curious questions. So this is the type of people we also need, right? In terms of like look at the problem from different angles, and then ability to come up with fresh perspectives instantly is a valuable skill that we would want to acquire. Yeah. So thanks for providing the opportunity here.
right, sir. Thank you thank you on behalf of the student community for guiding us. And it's a great to learn from you and hear from you what are the expectations and what are the business problems that are being discussed in the field of agri-tech. Personally, I believe that agri-tech is a cutting edge technology where the ML can be used very efficiently. And it's a field where the focus should be shifted on getting more and more yield, productivity, and other kind of business problems are there which can be explored. So it's a really great session. We look forward to have more such session and interaction with you. And so thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you, Rama sir. Thank you, Jeyabalaji sir.
Thank you. Bye.
see you. Bye.
Bye. Mahesh sir, we can stop him. Aditya, you can search for him on LinkedIn. It will be there. But still, I'll talk to team and refer it to you. Or more, you can mail to industry interaction cell and get the info required. So the team will be helping you.